Welcome to the Fitty Host Podcast, a podcast about the challenges of building a new internet. I'm your Fitty Host Paige, with some fresh kvass. And with me, as usual, Victor Diet, the CTO.
Diet? Like Victor Diet?
Victor Diet Coke.
Diet Coke?
Victor, you're drinking Diet Coke again?
It's really weird because my mom always says that too, which is like...
It was just very memorable when you decided that you didn't want to drink it. You made a fuss. You made a fuss about it.
No, that's the thing though. It's always been no sugar. It's never been like no like soft drinks.
I think you may have been a bit proud of the tea drinking. Like you went hard enough on the tea that the assumption was it had displaced. You had a Victor Diet displacement of Diet Coke.
No,
you know
that was never the case. No.
Maybe you could try some Russian Coke.
Kvass? I mean, yeah. If I can get it reliably, I would probably drink that all the time.
I wish I could have given it to you in person, but I haven't seen you for, I don't know, a month or something.
The only kvass I found here so far have been like very, very sweet.
It's like tea.
Yeah.
Got to visit more regularly if you want your hands on that kvass.
That's right.
Or I'll bring up the most shaken bottle of kvass of all time on the Petit Train de Nord at some point this summer.
Hopefully it doesn't explode in your backpack.
Speaking of things that, have exploded, what's up with the GoToSocial price explosion, Victor? Why you transition? Yeah. Why is it not $3.50? That's what we thought it was going to be. So what happened?
That's what we wanted. But from like the testing and everything, especially when we moved it to object storage, like when we moved it to, we did that pretty late because we needed to do some custom code, which is merged in the main GoToSocial branch now, which is nice.
Oh, cool.
The way it kind of calculates and cleans up the files is it hits them all one by one. So, and the way like object storage works when you use services like AWS or we use Backblaze, but they charge you per kind of like API calls. It does a call for every file, basically, that it needs to check. So that racks up the API calls quite a bit, which just in API calls, it would be like 33% of the cost.
So a third of the cost of hosting your instance would be backing up the media storage files of your instance.
Yeah.
Let's dumb this down to like, a page level. We have a server that has the GoToSocial programming code on it, but sitting off on a third server, for lack of a better word, to go and fetch a file from them, there's a little fee. You're basically iterating through every single file and grabbing a copy on a regular basis, and that's extremely expensive just due to the structure of GoToSocial's code.
It's for cleaning up like the remote cache. It's the object storage for media cache, just like Mastodon does it. I wouldn't be so quick to say like it's their fault. Yeah, essentially, it's just the way the GoToSocial code does it. Instead of like batching, it just does one call for each file.
And this is just happening because like GoToSocial up until this point was not working with object storage. It was operating on the assumption that you stored it on the machine.
I don't know when they added object storage. It's probably, I don't think it's that new. I think it's more a symptom of it's meant for small instances. So if you're one person, then it doesn't, like, you don't necessarily notice that it's doing all those things. It might be a little bit expensive, but it's not as expensive where you would go like, we need to fix that. But for hosting like at scale and trying to optimize cost everywhere we can, then that's like the biggest, like I noticed it right away.
So Mastodon instead has a local reference to the object storage file, and so it just sends the delete command. Is that how it works?
I don't know how Mastodon does it. There's no problem with the cost with Mastodon. Basically, GoToSocial, like it tracks all the files, like it knows all the files that it has in the database. But then there's a step where it kind of checks if the file exists in storage. Like if the reference it has in the database also exists in the object storage, and it does, and every single check that it does one request instead of being like, um, I have 1,000 things I want to check, and then you can check 1,000 things in a single request.
And this might be the sort of thing which maybe Mastodon also ran into, years ago,
Yeah,
and then was like, oh, we should put the time into making a batching system so that hosting costs get reduced. Because you, as the maintainer of a code base, you're motivated to solve these sorts of problems because it means that your code will proliferate more across the internet. More people want to use it, and
yeah,
because it's lower, it'll make it lower cost to host. And GoToSocial, that's a big part of their mandate, right? Is to get costs down for hosting.
yeah, and cost, resource usage, and then like another thing I want to add is the way there's kind of like a storage driver. So um, basically, it runs the same code if you're like storing files locally versus in the object storage. So when you're testing these features out, you might not necessarily realize that the cost is so high on object storage because you're just testing it locally, so it works fine with like the local storage, which is also what happened with like how long the script is running for cleaning up. Like before we switched to object storage, it was like, I don't know, 5 minutes and was done. Now it takes like an hour to clean up everything, just because I'm assuming it's having to do all those round trips.
Like an API request is so much slower than like a database.
That's one of the reasons why we're bumping up the price. But there's also because somebody did ask, like, isn't GoToSocial like more lightweight to run than Mastodon? And it is for the most part, but there's certain situation and edge cases where it's going to use more resources, mainly like CPU. Mastodon will rarely go above like half a CPU, but GoToSocial is just, I want to say it's so optimized that like if it can use all your core, it's gonna use it all. Like it's gonna use everything. We kind of have to limit. we kind of have to limit how much like CPU it's using. So we have to say like you only get to use one core, but it's gonna use it whenever it can to do certain things. Like when you boot up GoToSocial for the first time, like every time we restart it, it needs to compile some things, and then that compilation step uses up everything.
Is that just Go? Like, is that Golang's like way of operating?
The compilation thing is not specific to Go. It's compiling WebAssembly, which this is, I don't think anybody's going to understand anything about that, but it's doing some WebAssembly compilation for the SQLite and so the database, and FFmpeg, which is the thing that is used to convert images, media, audio, all that stuff.
FFmpeg is one of those classic, the diagram where it's like the entire internet built on like one little thing.
Yeah, it's very awesome.
It's behind the scenes on a lot of the video stuff that I do. I've kind of noticed it over the years. This whole thing's built on that, eh?
It's like a Swiss Army knife, but if every tool were like Snap-on, like pro quality tools.
You go into a fancy shop that has Swiss Army knives, and you look in the glass box, and there's a bunch of normal ones, and then there's one that's almost like a joke one where you're like, come on, it's like that wide, and it's like the Swiss Army. Every single thing we've got the horseshoe cleaner, we've got the magnifying glass, we've got the tweezers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's FFmpeg.
Yeah.
The long and short of the CPU issue is, does that add to the cost? Is that added to the cost?
It is added to the cost because how many GoToSocial instance can I fit on a server if they all decide to use like all the juice, right? So you kind of got to take that into account. There's no way to really limit it unless I say like, well, instead of using one core, you're going to use half a core. But then at some point, the thing becomes kind of too slow and unusable. So basically, I have to price it in a way that I say, if it's using all it can, how much can I fit on a server.
This reminds me of the duck curve in energy economics, if you're familiar with this.
No, I don't know.
So you have to have the electrical generation capacity of peak demand, which is a big part of what increases the cost of electricity, because basically at 7 a.m. in the morning, so many hot showers get taken that you have like gas turbine plants and all this sort of stuff that just have to exist to handle that crazy peak.
That's exactly what's going on.
So the challenge is being in an energy sense is flattening that curve, kind of like the pandemic, where you kind of go, oh, can we toggle the hot water heaters to only turn on to turn on before the shower at like 4 in the morning and then turn off blah. Is there something like that with GoToSocial?
I'm already kind of offsetting when the cleanup script runs, so I can kind of like tweak it a little bit. So I say this instance, instead of running it every 72 hours, then it's running it every 78 hours, right?
So you start to stagger them.
Yeah, you can mitigate this by staggering when things are happening. It's a problem we're kind of starting to run into with other services like Peerto or Mastodon. We're getting to a point where I'm gonna need to start staggering kind of the updates. Right now, when I update Mastodon or when I update PeerTube, everybody gets updated like right away. So they're all restarting at the same time. And then I'm starting to see like a spike, and it would be helpful to build in a mechanism that would say, okay, well, only do like five batches at a time. Wait for everything to be done, then do the next one, then do the next one. Well, for us in our implementation of GoToSocial, what I would really like is to kind of somehow cache the compilation step, because it's compiling it, but really it would only need to compile it once, right? Because everybody's using the same thing. Maybe that's not possible for some technicalities, but I think that would be the big thing, is like figuring out how to take that compilation step and only do it once and then give it to everybody who needs it.
These are also things which, as the service grows, you'll have kind of a plan of action, right, for stuff as it comes up.
Yeah, and I think that's like there's the technical aspect of hosting, but then there's also this whole other kind of problems of how do you optimize cost. We could go like, oh, we're gonna host GoToSocial is gonna be super easy, and then we don't do any configurations or optimization for like hosting it, and we say like, here you go, it's $10, or like we could just do like, oh, you want to host GoToSocial? Easy. Then we just spawn you a new machine just for you. That machine is like, I don't know, $7. And I think a lot of like hosting providers do that. And it's like, it's not a problem. They just go like, we have these machines, we're going to mark up the price for our margins, and then we don't really have to optimize everything. The way we're doing it is more, we want to offer this for the cheapest price possible. How do we make this happen? And then we figure out how do we optimize the service so that we can run it cheaply, and it makes sense for people to be with us. And that's kind of how we're able to offer like Mastodon for $4. Like, I don't think you can find VPSs that can run Mastodon for that price.
I understand that people would be a little bit like, oh, GoToSocial costs whatever it costs right now on FidiHost, and it is a little higher. But the hope is that we can solve these problems internally, and maybe some code changes can occur in GoToSocial, and between those two things, we'll end up with a lower price offering. Because GoToSocial, when we initially looked into it, we were like, oh, could we set up some sort of single user instance lightweight inbox for the Fediverse? It was almost like a reserve your spot on the Fediverse, and you would just be able to at least get people to follow you, and then you could click a button and upgrade to Mastodon. And then you came across GoToSocial and you were like, well, this is pretty close.
That was the hope at first.
Do you think our chances are pretty good that we'll get it lower than Mastodon?
Yeah, I think so. It's also important to add that the reason to use GoToSocial is not just because it's lightweight. There's some better privacy features in GoToSocial compared to Mastodon. The kind of like allow list, blacklist mechanism is also interesting for certain people. It's very nice for like a single user instance. It's more private minded than Mastodon, and it has those features that are more private. So that's kind of, so you can't just go, oh, I want to use GoToSocial because it's cheaper than Mastodon, but you should also look at what GoToSocial has to offer in terms of feature that Mastodon might not have.
I mean, Mastodon has a lot more features overall, but for some people, GoToSocial will be the only thing that has the features that they're looking for.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a good point to make. The final thing I wanted to point out that kind of increases hosting costs is this unknown about what GoToSocial will be. So GoToSocial is in beta, not like our GoToSocial. The actual code base is in beta. They're not planning on releasing the final version, or I guess their version 1, until 2026. So we don't exactly know what it is that we're going to be hosting. For example, GoToSocial might decide, hey, let's make a really nice lightweight front end and put it on GoToSocial. It's not at product lock. So they may add features that increase the cost of hosting GoToSocial, that make it heavier. And then at the same time, as we've said, when it comes to some of this optimization stuff, they may add features that decrease the cost of hosting GoToSocial. So we have a system at FediHost that Victor worked quite hard on to version plans. We create a plan, and then if we find that the price needs to change, we can keep people on a legacy plan and create a new plan. So we'll probably have a similar price adjustment in future, but we definitely didn't want to be setting people up for the expectation that GoToSocial is going to be $1 forever, because the truth is that it almost certainly will have to change once we get to the final. We just don't know which way, and we would hate for people to think that we kind of like pulled a switcheroo and then jack the price up on them or whatever when they do go to, say, upgrade their instance because some friends have decided to join them. So that's something to also keep in mind. Is there anything else?
We're like bang on the 30 minutes mark.
Gonna blame the kvass, Nice smooth taste, nice smooth episode. Thanks for listening or watching out there on the Fediverse, or the delayed version on YouTube. Hope that was informative, peek behind the scenes of our launch of GoToSocial, which we're very, very excited about. Victor, let's do a special on GoToSocial. Let's do a discount for the first, say, 10 people that sign up.
You want to do a discount?
Yeah, let's do a discount. Let's do the 50% off for 10 people.
50?
People jump on it. Oh, no.
Paige, we're trying to run a business here. You're going to put us in the ground.
I think that's it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Good work, Victor, getting it launched. That was a lot of work.
Thank you.
See you all next time on the FediHost podcast.